Hello, my name is Bre'Iera Moore, and I would like to welcome you to my podcast, Transforming Energy. Today, we will be discussing CAPRD, and that stands for Child Affected by Parental Relationship Distress. The definition of CAPRD is a child whose parents are experiencing intimate partner distress, violence, acrimonious divorce, unfair disappointment of one partner by another, or parental alienation. So one of my previous podcast episodes was dealing with healing the inner child. And the thing that I've noticed about going back and facing circumstances or events from my past is that I had to break down all those experiences to the best of my ability with the help of friends and family, and as well as a therapist, and just breaking down those events so I can properly place my emotions and thoughts about what transpired in the past so I can settle what happened and move forward. Because as I talked about before, in the past, I've always relived certain events from my childhood rather than talking about them and, actually allowing myself to appropriately categorize it how I needed to. I just simply repressed those emotions and memories. So that's how the CAPRD came about. Is when I found out about this, it was amazing because it is something that I knew that I experienced, and it was something that I knew that we never, like my family unit never talked about, but I didn't know exactly how to say it out loud. Like I didn't have the professional words to say or the technical words to put this together. So according to family system theory, is the family is considered to be an emotional unit and uses systems thinking to describe the unit's complex interaction. It is the nature of a family that the members are intensely connected emotionally. So when you have a child that is experiencing CAPRD or an adult that has faced CAPRD, we have to go back and break down those experiences in order for that child to break away from that negative experience and emotions so they will not be attached to what has transpired in the past. My siblings and I were raised in a 2-parent household, but it felt like we were raising ourselves. My parents was entangled in a vigorous battle of self-hate and abuse. I grew up in an emotional, dysfunctional environment centered around domestic violence. My parents was always engaged in a fight or in an argument. My siblings and I often felt scared, confused, and hopeless, especially in the early years, around, I would say, 2 to 7 years of age. The only time when things seemed to be normal is when my dad wasn't around. This is when we were on the run or staying with family members because of basically a domestic violence dispute occurred between my parents. We needed to retreat somewhere because the environment that we were in was unsafe. During those times of violence, more than likely, my dad also threatened my mother as well as my siblings and I, and hence why we would leave. So you would ask yourself, what is the impact that CAPRD will have on a child? They are often worried about their own safety or the safety of their siblings or other family members. They have trouble sleeping, lose interest in activities they used to enjoy, or have trouble concentrating in school. They act out of anger or aggressive ways, or withdraw from friends and family members. CAPRD is when a child witnesses the conflicts between their parents, overhear negative things said about the other parent, or caught in the middle of their parents' disagreements. For many years, I didn't know how to place my anger or my thoughts of the situation that I was experiencing in the past. As a child, my parents always said what goes on in this house stays in this house. And for the life of me, I could not understand why they would say that. It was like, it was so much turmoil going on in our home. And it's just like, I felt like I did not have an outlet. Like if I wasn't talking to my siblings And sometimes we didn't even discuss what happened because we were just too afraid that we would get punished. Also, I just felt so confused because there would be times when, like I said before, my mother would leave because the environment was too volatile. And then we would eventually go back, and it was like, I couldn't understand for the life of me. It's just like, why would she put us back into this situation? Like, why would she put herself, even if she didn't care about us in the sense of like our safety, why would she go back? And I could never understand that. And for so many years, I was resentful towards my mother because I just didn't understand her choices and why she would decide to allow these negative things to continue to happen to herself. It was a point in time where I no longer necessarily cared about me because I knew, even from an early age, I knew if she was to get herself together in the sense of just breaking away from, the negative family environment, because for the most part, everything else she had intact, like school, money, job, like everything else, she was so efficient, but she was unable to break away from that stronghold of abuse. And as a child, I didn't understand it. And it was just, not only did I hate my dad, but like I said, I resented her for that. And I couldn't even place those emotions or let alone those thoughts. So when I came across CAPRD, I was like, this is beautiful. Like I was finally able to see words that explain how I felt. I was able to share what it is how I felt in those times. And that fear of being scared because I didn't know what was going on at home or thinking that something bad was going to happen. A child shouldn't have to worry if one parent is going to kill another parent. Like that was my reality growing up. So having that what goes on in this house stays in this house mentality, I just felt lost. I just felt confused. Also felt alienated from them because it's not like we could have talked about it. And I would just basically just see my mother in a state of, just discontentment. And I didn't know how to help her. I wanted to desperately help her. And I wanted to help my siblings and I too, but I just wanted her to get out of it because I knew that she was better than that. And I saw the later effects, prior to her death. I saw how those times really affected her self-esteem and her self-worth. Like I would encourage my mother to do certain things, but she just, honestly, deep down, I guess she felt like she wasn't worthy of that. And I just wanted to, I asked myself many a times, especially now that I'm learning more and more information about family environments and family units and how they operate as an emotional unit, just asking myself, like, how did that really affect her? And I was so hell-bent on not becoming what my parents were. I was so fearful in that I would push people away, that my heart was getting hardened. Like I was just such an aggressive person because I didn't want to be that way. I didn't want someone to violate me physically because of whatever they had going on. And now that I get to break it down, I get to understand exactly what that meant. I'm grateful for the experience because it took so many of my years away from me. Just living in fear and just not knowing what to do or what to say, and repressing those emotions and those memories. They would just come up in night terrors, and I would have to face them in my dreams. Like if I was not only living through it during the daytime in my mind, but when I would go to sleep, I would have night terrors. Not only did I live in a state of fear, but the anxiety had increased to where I had to basically go get prescribed medication to subside the anxiety that I was experiencing. And then the depression was at an all-time high. And the depression would be exacerbated whenever a situation that I didn't like was going on. Like when life was getting a little trippy, the depression would get heavier. And reason being is, growing up, I didn't learn how to cope effectively, be able to compartmentalize my emotions, my thoughts appropriately, and just how I saw my parents deal with things. And, basically that's what CAPRD is all about, is just seeing the dysfunction between parents and basically the psychological effects that it has on a child. And for all my years, my parents went through that. Like, they were together up until I was 18. And so from 0 to 18, I experienced that with them, and just learning their dysfunctions and them being toxic, and just knowing not properly being able to handle stress and the anxieties that come up with life. And I resented my parents for a lot of years, and I didn't know exactly why. Like, I knew the base level, like the surface level is, they didn't provide the life that I felt like I deserved growing up. Like the life that I saw on TV. And that was just the surface level, but they didn't teach me how to go about life, how to do life, and what that really meant. It was just do as I say and not as I do. And it's like them not explaining that what they were doing wasn't right. Like, I knew it, but why wasn't it right? Why is it that you do not, when you're in a disagreement with your partner or someone, how to handle that, and how, when you are faced with obstacles or opportunities in life, how do you go about it that's going to put you to the next level, that's going to help you succeed and be successful, and not just financially, but how to be successful emotionally, mentally, relationally, how to be your best self in order to influence others around you to be their best selves. I am the second oldest out of 5 kids, and my older brother and I were in the trenches with my parents growing up, because it's like whenever they were going through it, my older brother and I were going through it with them. Whenever they was in an argument, and all their frustration would be turned towards my older brother and I, and we were, the typical black family, like, you take care of your younger siblings, don't let nothing happen to them, and then something does. But I understood that, but that was exacerbated based upon their feelings. Like, if they were feeling X, Y, and Z, or they was in a mood, then my brother and I would get the worst of it. And there were times where I felt like their punishment did not match the situation, and I just felt like they were abusing us for no reason. And it was like they never taught us, whenever we got in trouble, they never sat down and said, this is the reason why we did this. It was just, get over here, receive this punishment, and go on about your day. And I'm just like, a lot of the times when I was punished growing up, I did not understand it, why I was being punished. And I remember one particular time, the punishment did not meet the circumstances. It didn't fit. There you go. It didn't fit with what had occurred. And I just felt like my dad went overboard, to the point where, to this day, I still have a scarf. I still have a scar on my leg, and it's just a constant reminder of that day. And it hurts me to see it, because, like I said, that punishment did not fit what happened. And it was simply all because he didn't know how to place his emotions. He didn't know how to control himself. And so whenever he went off on my mother or he went off on us, it was just because he couldn't deal with his life. He couldn't deal with the anxieties that he had going on with him. And he didn't know how to properly place his emotions. And what my parents didn't understand, and what I was always trying to express to them, like, yeah, you all really messed us up because you really didn't teach us nothing. You only taught us the bad of what a person could do, or how a person could behave, or how a person could just be nasty. It was never anything good. Even when there was quote unquote good times to think about, it was always something negative. It was always something bad that came behind it. And just growing up in that way, I just didn't know how to be myself. I didn't know how to go out in the world and be a productive member in the sense of like emotionally, and not just placing my anger onto other people because I didn't know how to express myself. Now that I'm more aware of my emotions and I'm able to better express and just simply articulate my emotions, I feel like I'm able to finally and have a clean slate, and I wouldn't say erase, because those memories will always be there, but I will be able to, whenever I am triggered or whenever emotion or memory does come back from my childhood and how my parents interacted with one another, I can say, now I know the difference. I know exactly why you shouldn't, yell at someone, or you shouldn't put your hands on someone. I knew it before, but I understand the psychological effects behind it now. And now I'll be able to better, like I said before, articulate exactly what it is that I need from someone, or that I need to, what I need to show to myself. And just moving forward from that, and not allowing the negative memories from the past, and just how I saw my parents, like I said, interact with one another, affect me, and I can just move forward from that. So here are some tips if you are a parent that's experiencing distress within your relationship. And a way that you can help out your children is to, first, it's important to try to keep the conflict between you and your partner and remain calm as possible. Second is be sure to spend time with your child and let them know that you love them. Also, to just express that the conflict between you and your partner is not a reflection of what is going on with your child, or their behavior or whatever it is, to just let them know that they're not part of this and that this is between the partners. And this will help to provide a sense of security for the child, to just let them know, just reassure them that they're not the cause of this issue. And if the person, the partners, you and your partner, if you all are having a difficult time expressing your emotions or controlling your emotions, then it's a possibility of seeking help, just to, get a professional opinion on how to better cope with stresses and anxieties that life gives us, because we will all face them at one point in time. And if you feel like this is reoccurring and it's occurring more often than it should, then it would definitely be great to seek professional help. Reason being is it's very important for a child to see their parents or their, guardians or whomever that's taking care of them or have primary care of them, to see them in a healthy relationship, to where they are able to articulate exactly what it is that they need from their partners and from their environment to, just be productive members of society, and to just see the love. That is something that I didn't see from my parents. I didn't see them loving on each other, just simply sitting down and having a loving conversation and just laughing. It was always, and you would say, like, really, all that time? Like, all the time. It was just always constant bickering. And, like, it would probably be for a split second, and then it would just automatically change. The mood would change, and it just really seemed like they hated one another. And it was very uncomfortable being a child, especially a child that wasn't able to express themselves, to be in the middle of that and just seeing how they handle one another. And it's just simply important for children just to see healthy relationships and how to, better communicate with one another. So if you like this, just come back for more. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast recording.